Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Monday edition of Winners and Winers Radio. I'm your host, Scott Steehn. I am the lead handicapper at winnersandwiners.com. And of course, it wouldn't be the show without bringing in my co-host, the man with the plan, the man of the hour. He's the king of Long Island, everybody. He is the one, the only. He is senior handicapper at Winners and Winers. It's Scott Reichel. Scotty,
Thank you,
what's up?
thank you. Good to be back. Good to be back. It's always fun being on the show. Yeah, pretty fun weekend. Ended up having a family trip to celebrate my grandfather's 90th birthday.
All right.
So that was fun. Other than that, came back and watched some baseball because what else was I supposed to watch? How was your weekend?
It was okay. Watched some Olympics. Watched the opening ceremonies. Did you see the opening ceremonies at all?
I did not.
I'm sure that's available if you wanted to find it somewhere. If you check out the opening ceremonies, they did the cool drone stuff. They did the Earth. They highlighted each individual country.
Was it as cool as the robot shooting those 3-pointers during halftime of the Team USA basketball game?
I didn't see that. They had a robot shooting 3-pointers.
3-pointers and free throws. Absolute money. Steph Curry is jealous right now.
So literally the robot made the shots from the 3-point line?
Yeah.
All right. Well, a little glimpse of the future. That's what your kids are going to be watching, Scott. So that'll be fun.
I still can't believe people are making robots after all those Terminator movies, but we'll see what happens in the future.
There's even a company called Skynet.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
That I knew. That's not the name I would have chosen.
No, you're just asking for trouble. I'm sorry. We've seen how this ends.
Mm-hmm.
Do you worry about robots taking over the future at all? Taking over the world?
No, I'm just going to try to Google where the nearest Sarah Connor lives, and I'll try to see if that'll help me out in the long run.
Oh, we've got a long way to go here, folks. So, yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to be here. Of course, there's always a lot of stuff going on over the weekends when we don't do the show, so it's good to have everybody here, of course. And you are listening to Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners. That's how it works around here, everybody. So, without further ado, we'll get to the first segment as we always do, Scott. We'll talk about it's been a weekend of tough beats, and I know there's been a bunch of them out there because you and I participated in a few. But these are the people that just didn't do well. They thought they had a winner right up until the time everything changed. Their life fell apart. The bet went to hell, and all they could do was realize that their bets have been stolen. And when you get something stolen, all you can do, folks, is call the cops. All right, Scott. Well, let's start it off as we do with the Philadelphia Phillies on the run line, entertaining the Braves. They led 2-0 with 2 outs in the top of the 9th. 2 strikes. Riley is up. Who? Exactly. Riley's up. How about a solo home run just to screw your run line? Thanks, Riley. Living the life of Riley right there. Phillies end up winning 2-1. But if you had the run line, you were well aware that that wasn't enough. If you had Phillies on the run line, you were 1 strike away, but it was still a big L. Call the cops.
And if you had the Yankees on the money line, first of all, why? Second of all, not a fun time for you. You were up 4-0, and Domingo Germán had a no-hitter through the first 7 innings. So it actually looked pretty promising. And then he gave up 1 hit, and Boone decided after 1 hit and 92 pitches, I've seen enough. Let's go to the bullpen, and the bullpen was absolutely terrible. Boston scored 5 runs in the 8th inning, ended up winning 5-4. So you went from being up 4 runs with a no-hit pitcher on the mound to blowing the lead in about 25 minutes. Call the cops.
Who did they bring in?
They brought in Jonathan Loaizaga.
Yeah.
And he faced 5 batters, gave up 5 hits, I believe.
I'd like to find the tweet because I know it wouldn't age well. I saw some Yankees fan tweet that Loaizaga should have been an all-star.
I know a lot of Yankees fans tell me that he's very good. I've seen him pitch. He's good at times. I think that he's definitely up and down like most Yankee pitchers, but he didn't have it yesterday because he was absolutely terrible.
He's good. He's just not good at baseball. So, yeah, that's a brutal beat right there. If you had the Yankees, first of all, you're thinking money line. Okay, 4-0. I'm in great shape right here.
You don't even get an extra draw. You just immediately blew the game in the 8th inning.
Yeah, you didn't even give a chance to the Yankees to win it there. So, brutal weekend for the Yankees. We're going to talk about that here a little bit more in just a minute. Scott will finish it up in the major leagues. Of course, if you have the Nationals on the money line playing the Orioles, you were laying a chunk of change because it's, again, the Orioles. But you were right where you wanted to be. You were ahead going into the bottom of the ninth, 4-3. All you got to do, bring out that rock-solid Nationals bullpen to shut it down, Scott. Shut it down. No, we're going to call BS. BS, not for what you think it is, but for blown save, because that's exactly what happened. Orioles scored 2 in the bottom of the ninth. They walk it off to the tune of 5-4. You had the Nationals there in the Battle of the Beltway. You had the better team, but not yesterday. You got robbed.
So when you say that you have the better overall team, I agree based on record, but if Baltimore swept the series, is Washington the better team?
Yes.
I probably agree with you. I'm just saying Washington, as of right now, getting swept by Baltimore, should probably trade half the roster.
Not a good look.
If you need a sign to sell at the deadline, getting swept by Baltimore and having the worst record in the entire league in July, you should probably take that as a sign from the heavens, trade half the team.
You think the heavens get involved in basketball at the trade deadline? Baseball at the trade deadline, rather.
I don't know, but in case you need a signal, I don't really see a clearer signal than that. Do you?
Here's your sign. All right, very good.
That's how I'm looking at it. I mean, get swept by Baltimore? What, are you kidding me?
But it's the National League East, so nobody's dead.
That's true, but
they're just sleeping.
See, Washington won the one World Series, which I don't want to say they fluked into, but it definitely wasn't exactly expected for them to win. They're kind of just the spitting image of the Capitals, which is really just fitting because they play for the same area. You win one cup you weren't supposed to win. You had a lot of years where you underachieved in the playoffs. The Capitals haven't blown it up yet, but they might be in a little bit. I think it's time for the Nationals to reassess who exactly they should keep moving forward.
You think there'll be buyers at the deadline? Or
Washington? No, I think they're going to completely trade half the team. I mean, Scherzer's been scratched because of partial injury. They might trade him. So Scherzer might be gone. I don't know what the story is with Strasburg.
What is a partial injury, Scott?
As in, like, he's injured, but the Nationals are keeping it hush-hush. So you can't really tell if he's actually seriously injured or if they're giving him the Andre Drummond treatment, where Cleveland says, you could play, we just don't want you to play because we're probably not going to have you in a week. So we're kind of keeping tabs on that, but it seems like Washington's in full sell mode.
But they haven't sold anybody yet.
No, I'm just saying it seems like it's coming.
Okay. Interesting take. Interesting.
It should. Team stinks. I don't really know what more you want to say.
Okay, well, they're 8 back, and again, the thing about the National League, pretty much all the races are for the division lead, because if you're not in the West, you ain't going to the wild card game.
See, when you say that you're 8 back, when you say you're 8 back, that is definitely true. They're also 8 games under, so I know that the division, of course, is not good for the NL East, but they don't even have a wild card draw. Or if they do, it's not a good one.
No, they have a better. I think they have a better
shot at the division because the NL West teams are going to just take the wild card.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you've got the Padres that are sitting 14 games over.
I'm just saying.
So they're 11 games back of the last wild card spot.
I think the Nationals are just dead to rights. They should probably start trading people.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be curious to see who's the buyer and who's the seller, because I guarantee you there's going to be some teams that are surprising to us on both sides of the coin.
I'm sure.
The Royals came out over the weekend and said that they probably won't be sellers at the deadline because they think they have a core in place that allows them to compete for championship next year.
I think that's a bit much, but I do think though that the Royals have some talent on the roster, so it's not a complete loss. But they had a good weekend against Detroit.
You know who the Royals want to be? The Royals think they should be Detroit about this point, where the Detroit may be a year away from competing.
That's fair.
They're ahead of the Royals on the rebuild right now, no question about it. So, all right, Scott. Well, we really like to talk about both sides of the coin. We hate to start the show with the depressing news, but then again, we get it out of the way. We eat our vegetables right at the beginning, and we call it good. We have fun the rest of the show, and no part of the show is more fun than this one, Scott. This is where you actually were on the right side of the games. You had it sussed out. You had it handicapped correctly. Everything went exactly the way you thought it would. Hell, you didn't even have to watch the game. That's how over it was, and that's how quick it was. You, my friend, were the place every bettor wants to be. You are in the rocking chair.
So the first one was in Olympic basketball, but it did not involve the U.S. It was between Australia and Nigeria. And if you had the under 172.5, it was nice and easy. Each of the last three quarters had a less than 42 points, just 27 points in the third quarter. Of course, Olympic basketball is not playing 12 minutes, but 27 points is still really, really bad offensively. And the game ended up landing at 151. So if you had the under 172.5, you cashed by 21 plus points.
Fine play right there. Have you made many Olympic bets yet?
I haven't really made many. I was looking into some swimming stuff, some track and field. I actually had Australia on the money line. I had a decent amount of money on it. I believe it was around minus 350, which
Good.
I know, of course, is chalk, heavy chalk. But if it's a winner, it's a winner. And I thought Nigeria had no shot of winning, and they didn't. So it worked out pretty well. You?
Yeah, I've dabbled. I've made a couple of good plays, but are there any sports? Let me ask you two questions. First of all, are there any sports in the summer games that you just have kind of seen them lately and you really like forget how much you enjoy those? Or like, oh yeah, I remember I like watching that. Any sports like that for you?
Well,
Or
it's a
any
matter of
any ones they haven't seen before?
I was going to say, I don't know if it's a matter of forgetting, but I do love the swimming in the Olympics, and I don't forget how good it is, but I feel like I always underestimate how good it is. And if you know what I'm talking about, just the actual atmosphere, the coach of Titmus, that Australian woman who ended up winning the 400 meter freestyle, and she won the gold. You see the video of her coach going nuts?
No.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. He starts he's like
I
dry
do know
humping
him,
the
though.
glass protection. It's fantastic stuff.
Oh,
It's great.
outstanding. Yeah, they did show a clip of him working with her, trying to get her ready to beat Ledecky.
He got amped up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I believe that. He looked like he was kind of high strung. So good for her. I've been really enjoying the 3-on-3 basketball. I got to admit, it's a lot of fun. It's just like watching a street game. It's all half court. They don't play make it take it. So I was kind of disappointed about that. Of course, all the baskets are 1 point. Everything behind the 3-point line, of course, is 2 points. And yeah, it's kind of fun. Now you have a theory on 3-on-3, Scott. When I told you that I like that, what did you say?
When it comes to 3-on-3, I said that the players are only in it because they weren't good enough for the 5-on-5 roster. Can you just imagine, like, the U.S. has, like, backup roster players? Like, LeBron decided not to play the 5-on-5, but he's just playing the 3-on-3. I just find that hilarious to me.
You think LeBron's in good enough shape to play 3-on-3?
In a half-court setting, yeah, I think he can handle that.
Okay. All right.
He doesn't have to run the court. Sure.
Yeah, I know, but you're constantly in motion.
I was joking about LeBron, but I just mean in general. You're looking at the guys. I would say that the 3-on-3 basketball players aren't necessarily the most talented, but damn, they try, and I respect that.
All right, good enough. All right, Scott, let's move on. If you had the Cardinals-Reds under 10, man.
Over 10.
Excuse me, if you had over 10, that's right. O stands for O, doesn't it? If you had over 10, you're in good shape. They just put up 5 runs in the first inning. The Cardinals by themselves scored 7 runs in the fourth inning. Yeah, time to take a nap, everybody, because that game ended up 10-6, well over the number of 10. Cardinals-Reds over 10. You were sitting in the rocking chair.
And if you had the Rangers-Astros under 8.5, you had 3 runs in the 5th inning, 1 run in the 6th inning. However, the other 7 innings, no runs. Game ended 3-1. Nice and easy win for the under.
Yep, very solid. Man, that Rangers team, Scott, cannot score.
I mentioned that about a week and a half ago, but I can try to beat the dead horse. I can't even do it justice how bad this team is.
They've averaged.
I tried. I tried my best.
They've averaged 1.8 runs over their last 13.
I tried my best to sum up after the Blue Jays series after the All-Star break when they're being outscored by a measly 30. I tried to, hammer it home. It's somehow gotten even worse for the Rangers. I tried my best, man.
Right. And for those of you that are ready for Bet the Farm and fading the Rangers, it's probably coming, but the only problem is Rangers don't play today. So
it might be the best timed off day in the history of baseball.
Yeah, no kidding. If it was a timeout, they'd definitely be taking it right now.
If there wasn't a day off, they could hypothetically lose 20 games, and it would not surprise me.
Yep, no kidding. That could absolutely happen. So, quick reminder, guys, you are listening to Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners. That's kind of what we do around here. And, of course, winnersandwhiners.com is our title sponsor. Winnersandwhiners.com, the number one site in the world for predictive sports. Predictive sports. They tell you where the mushrooms are. Predictive sports analysis each day. Scott, people from over 150 countries. You see all those countries competing in the Olympics? We probably have people every day from each of those countries stopping by winnersandwhiners.com, checking out all the latest information, line moves, weather, injuries, all that kind of stuff. All the information you want to have before you make your final bet. Best part about winnersandwhiners.com, Scott, full previews, predictions on every play, and it is, of course, always
Free.
100% free. Best free resource on the internet. So if you are not a fan, if you have not been to winnersandwhiners.com, you owe it to yourself and your bankroll to stop by and check out the number one site in the world for predictive sports analysis, winnersandwhiners.com. All right, Scott. Well, let's talk a little more Olympics, shall we? And I'm sure people have absolutely no idea where we're going with this, who would ever win the award today. So let's get rid of all the speculation, all the anticipation. It all comes down to this, Scott. Who in the world is going to be Donkey of the Day? All right. Scott, any idea who the Donkey of the Day is?
Well, I'm trying to remember if this is actually history for Donkey of the Day, because this might be the first multi-time winner that we've actually had.
The first repeat winner, two-peat.
So, looking at the Olympics, you know where we're going with this one. Is Team USA basketball.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the women's beach handball team.
It was unfortunately not the beach handball team. Shout out to Ecuador. Anyway, looking at the men's team, we know that they struggled in qualifying, but some people are holding out hope. They were going to be getting Holiday, Middleton, Booker back, and it was also going to be meaningful games. So you could thought maybe the exhibition games, they just weren't interested.
Flip the switch.
Team USA didn't flip the switch. They just broke the switch on off because they just didn't show up again. Lost outright as 12.5-point favorites to France by 7. To make matters worse, they were leading by 8 points at the half, scored 11 points in the third quarter, ended up losing by 7, as I said before. Fun stat of the game. Evan Fournier had more points than Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Chris Middleton combined. Isn't that a stat?
Not good. It is a stat. It's not a good stat, but it does sum up the status of this game.
So we can go a long way in a bunch of different directions here about how the star players have been terrible. Popovich as a coach has completely failed. You have a direction you want to go with this one? Because I feel like the loss to France, the first Olympic loss since I believe 2004, speaks for itself. But I'll let you have the floor a little bit. Do you want to place the blame on anyone in particular, or just the fact that we're in a situation where superstars in the NBA just don't care about the cachet of the Olympics, which is why a lot of them just don't go anymore?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
To some degree.
It's hard to say the guys that are there don't care.
No, the guys that are there care. I'm talking about just the fact that a lot more star players pass on the opportunity in comparison to the past couple decades.
Well, I guess that's true. And, every one of the teams except Iran has an NBA player, has at least one NBA player on their roster. But the USA, they have, let me check here. Oh, all of them are NBA players, Scott. So they should have a massive advantage in talent in every single game. Here's my question, without trying to figure out what's wrong, because I think it's a multitude of things. I think, number one, like you said, the best players in the world aren't playing. We have a very good group of players that should be able to get it done. Greg Popovich, I'm not sure he's been a relevant head coach for 5 years now.
Probably since Duncan retired.
That seems oddly coincidental, but yeah, I think the time frame works out about right on that.
He was on fumes, but truth is, Duncan retiring kind of overlapped with Kawhi being traded. So you want to make a more relevant statement. Since Kawhi got traded to Toronto, the Spurs have been kind of completely irrelevant.
Okay, well, be that as it may, he hasn't been able to perform at a high level with mediocre talent. And I think that's the case that you've got here. Now, the other thing is, Scott, as I think most of the other teams that they're going to play have a lot more opportunity to play together. This is a USA team that hasn't practiced. They just got they just got
I listed the three. They got Booker, Holiday, and Middleton.
Booker, Holiday, and Middleton just arrived. Of course, you can't use it as an excuse when Holiday was your leading scorer, but Middleton hardly played. So I don't know. From a betting standpoint, is there any way you don't fade this team going forward? I mean, I don't think I'd fade them against Iran. They're probably going to be 35-point favorites against Iran.
I don't even think they will be 35. I mean, they were laying about 30 into Nigeria, so you'd assume they'd be 35 just based on if this team was playing a tip-top, performance. Based on recent performance, I think books might overreact in the other direction. I think they're probably favored by somewhere in the 20s. I would probably say 26 and a half, give or take.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I just don't know. I really think it's going to be closer to 30, but
I think that they're going to try to dare people to take the U.S., and I think that the point is that based on current form, I don't want to say that people in the U.S. are going to overreact and automatically fade this team, but I think they're more likely to fade a team when that's laying 30 following a loss opposed to backing a team off a loss that's favored by 30. So I see it somewhere in the 20s to try to get about 50-50 action on it. You?
Yeah, okay. Well, that's I think it's a little low, but we'll see.
I didn't say I was going to take the points with Iran at 20-something, but I think that's where it's going to be placed.
Okay, and personally, I think it'll be a little higher. And I think I don't know. Iran didn't play that well against Czechoslovakia. I would be interested in taking the Czechs, cashing the Czechs.
Czechoslovakia. That's a hell of a throwback right there.
Against the USA. What's that?
Czechoslovakia. That's a hell of a throwback.
What do you mean?
You mean Czech Republic?
Well, the Czech Republic.
Czechoslovakia hasn't existed for like a decade and a half.
Whatever. Okay.
You didn't say Yugoslavia, so it could have been worse.
That's right. No, it's the Czech Republic. Okay. So, yeah, I think I'm being more interested in that. I made a pretty good call. I was I think we talked about a little bit on the show, and then I talked about it on another radio show that I was on over the weekend. I thought France coming out of that group at 7-1 had tremendous value because the USA can lose a game, still be able to qualify for the medal round. So
I thought that going into the Olympics, kind of why I liked Australia in game 1 against Nigeria. I think Australia to win the whole thing has some value to it because that team's actually very good.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, they've definitely got some talent. France has some talent. If that French team plays the way that it did today, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with as well.
Definitely true.
All right, so there you go. That's the donkey of the day, kids. Speaking of somebody that has a potential to be donkey of the day, Scott, Deshaun Watson reported to camp yesterday. Is this a sign that he doesn't want to get fined, or is it a sign that that they think he's going to be the starting quarterback in week 1?
I'm assuming it's a mix of both. Now, Houston, of course, would love for him to be starting week 1 because he's easily the best player that they have at any position, especially after they traded Watt. I know Watt was well past his prime, but still, he started a borderline fire sale over the offseason, so you can tell that they don't really have much talent on the roster. They would love Watson to play, but I think it's mostly about being fined. At the end of the day, I don't know based on PR or based on where we're going to be standing with the legal issue. I'm assuming unresolved because that's just common sense. I got to assume that we're going to have no answer to the actual conclusion of this case until either the middle of the season or maybe the end of the season. So it depends on how Houston wants to play it, but for the sake of him reporting, I think it was solely based on trying to avoid being fined because the NFL has the new provision. I don't know if it was in the labor agreement or whatever, but you have no excuses. You have no alibi when it comes to skipping workouts. You either get fined or you don't. I think it was purely
you ain't got no alibi? Is that what you're saying, Scott?
He ugly. Yeah. I'm saying I think that it was mostly I think it was for the money. Now, does Watson need $50K? No, but I do think he might. Depends on if the lawyer's working pro bono or not. But I think that it was all for the money. They're not. I think it was for the money. You?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It's in the NFL is an impossible situation right there because we've talked about this a lot, and I don't want to belabor it again, but there's no good answer here because you can't keep a man from working on accusations alone, and it looks very bad. There's 22 lawsuits against him. And
I lost track of how many lawsuits there were because people kept coming out of the woodwork.
Yep. So there's 22 lawsuits against him. You have to worry about how that's going to be resolved. But until it is, He's innocent until proven guilty, Scott. So I think he's going to play. I think he's going to get to play, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. It's kind of distasteful on the surface, but then again, it's the way the legal system works. So I will say this: enjoy your last season. Scott, bad time to be a Yankees fan. Bad time to be a Yankee. Well,
unless you have money on other teams.
Talking about the last 25 years, but yeah, unless you've got money on Boston or Tampa Bay. Boston give them what for, Scotty? Give them what for over the weekend with a incredibly disheartening loss. We touched on it there in our Call the Cops segment, and that's one of those losses that may, to quote the Cranberries, linger for a while, if I may. I don't see the Yankees coming back from this. Speaking of teams that are too prideful to know when to sell, Scott, Yankees cut bait here or they keep fishing?
Well, I said that my hot take after Judge was found with COVID was that I thought the Yankees would be the surprise seller at the deadline. And I feel like that has definitely, I would say, grown some legs when it comes to an imaginary plus price of them selling the deadline, because it looks a lot more likely now than it did probably a week ago. They should sell. They're 9 back of Boston. They're not going to make the playoffs. This team isn't very good. Do you think they sell? And if they do, what exactly can they trade besides Sanchez and Torres? Because Judge isn't going to move. He's the face of the franchise. You can't trade Stanton. You want to, but that contract is so bad that you can't do it. I mentioned Kluber. Maybe, I know he's injured, probably out for the year, but he has an expiring contract. So if you do want to flip him for a prospect or two, maybe. But, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about big fish that they want to get rid of. The ones I'm looking at got to be Sanchez and Torres, right?
What do you do with Urshela?
Urshela is on a pretty friendly contract, but he's also got COVID, so I don't really know when he's coming back. Urshela, I think, is pretty good. I don't have an issue with Urshela. I think it's mostly...
Oh, right. Those are some of the guys you got to trade, Scott.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't get to trade all the crappy guys.
The two I want them to get rid of are Torres and Sanchez. I've had enough of both of them. But
right.
Urshela's contract, I think, is friendlier. So I do think that he'll stay. I don't know if you can trade Chapman. Can you trade Chapman? That's an option.
What do you think? It's like driving a new car off the lot. What do you think Chapman's lost in value in the last month? 30%?
I have no idea, but all I know is that a lot of teams are going to be in the Kimbrel sweepstakes for Chicago.
Yeah.
If you need a premium closer, I'm not saying that Chapman is a premium closer, but we can agree that his ceiling is a lot higher than the average closer.
True. Very true.
So you don't think a team that maybe has a terrible bullpen like I don't want to say Philadelphia because they ended up getting Archie Bradley at the deadline, but a team like that, a team that's in the hunt that doesn't really have an official closer, maybe the Dodgers, if they realize that Kenley Jansen stinks.
I think they're going all in for Kimbrel, by the way.
I think they are too, but I'm saying hypothetically, wouldn't you agree that a team like the Dodgers would make sense for Chapman, because we know that they never care about the salary. Right. They never care. I think that's a good spot for Chapman if you actually think that they're tired of Jansen, which I think they might be.
Let me ask you this, because the Padres are buyers. They're in third place. They're 5.5 games back of the Giants. Now, they pulled off kind of a big deal yesterday. I mean, it's would you call this the biggest deal of the trade season so far?
I would say that name recognition, it's Nelson Cruz, but based on talent, it's probably Adam Frazier.
Yep, picking up second baseman Adam Frazier from the Pirates, really good hitter.
Leading the league in hits.
Yeah, leading the league in hits as a Pirate. So, yeah. So, that's impressive. Couple things. Does that mean anything for the Padres? Does it close the gap? Are they going to need another pitcher? What are the Padres doing here, Scott? Because it looks like they're pretty well locked into the wild card spot. I mean,
I was going to say, when you say to challenge, are you talking about the Dodgers, the Giants, or both? Because I don't think they're good enough to beat both.
Well, that's the thing. They've got to leap both teams. So I think they're stuck in third place. I mean,
I think they're stuck in third, maybe
even if the Giants fall apart, which is everybody's been predicting for 4 months now. Even if that happens, they're still not likely to catch both of those teams, just like you said. So
the issue I have with the Padres wasn't second base. It's the fact that the rotation is just not very good.
Well, it's really banged up.
No, that's what I'm saying. Talent-wise, it has talent, but the issue is players have underperformed or people are injured because Lamet has been a disaster this year because he's never healthy. Snell's been a disaster. Nobody
Right.
expected that to happen. Paddock, we've roasted on this show numerous times for never being the same guy after his rookie year. So they had a lot of expectations going into the season for having a great, performance from Darvish, who I know he got shelled yesterday, but he's been good overall. I think we can agree that as good as of a player that Frazier is, it's probably the pitching core that needed the most help as opposed to the middle infield. You?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've got just a ton of guys. You've got Lamet, like you said. It looks like he hasn't been right all season. You've got Matt Strom, who really hasn't played at all this season. There's a great piece there in the bullpen.
I mean, Ryan Weathers is fine, but do you trust him in a playoff series? I don't.
No. I mean, you can't at this point, And remember, Scott, this is a team that also has Mike Clevenger.
Yeah, and he also has been out all year.
Right, but got hurt in the offseason. So I mean, they're not without some pieces, but yeah, it's just not looking good.
I'm talking about solely this year. The pieces
they're going to
have
to add another arm if they're serious about this. If this is just and the Royals did the same thing back in 2015 too, Scott. They added two different pieces. They added Ben Zobrist, and then they added Johnny Cueto. So I think it could be a kind of the same situation with the San Diego Padres. I think they're picking up a bat. I think they're still going to – I don't think they're done. I think they're going to have to pick up an arm if they hope to compete.
That's what I'm looking at. Now, as a player, I like Frazier a lot. I think he's a very good contact hitter. I know they give up a couple prospects. To be honest, I don't know exactly how good those prospects are, mostly because of the fact that, A, I'm not well-versed on their farm system, and B, you never really know how good a prospect is until they actually start doing something in the pros. You can be the number one ranked prospect and never develop into anything. So I was fine with the trade for San Diego, but I do think that if you're looking at a trade to get them over the hump, they got an all-star, but I don't exactly think it's going to push them to the edge.
Now, Marcano was the guy. That Pittsburgh wanted.
I don't know where he ranks in the farm system, but I know he's regarded as being a pretty good prospect.
I think he was their fifth best player. He's the fifth best prospect according to Baseball Prospectus. He's top 10.
That's about in the league or for San Diego?
In the league.
Okay.
So he's a really solid player.
What position is he?
Shortstop.
Okay. Well, they don't really need one of those because they got Tatis for the next decade and a half. So that's fair.
Correct. Very good. All right, my friend. Well, quick reminder to everybody that you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners. Of course, winnersandwhiners.com is our title sponsor. Make sure you stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com for deep dives and predictions into every game every single day. Always free. So, yeah, get over there and do that. Well, Scott, we made it today without having to talk about the C word. But
for now,
there is another topic that we've hit frequently that had a little bit of movement this weekend, and that's the Aaron Rodgers saga. A lot of sports books started to take down their Aaron Rodgers prices or their Packers futures prices, Scott. Speculation there is somebody knows something, and Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. Now, I know you had a hot take on that. You said you thought Aaron Rodgers would ultimately retire before the season started.
I said that around draft time.
That's what I'm saying. So, do you still hold to that, or is there fire where this smoke is, Scott, or is it just all kind of just a lot of people speculating who don't really know anything?
I actually think there is going to be fire to the smoke because I said it. So nothing about this has changed my perspective on it. Pretty much actually everything that I thought was going to happen with regard to him potentially retiring has happened because he still hasn't shown up. He still hates the front office. And now Devontae Adams joined him in whatever type of strike this is or whatever you want to call it. So everything's in shambles right now for Green Bay. Completely separate story. But do I think it's going to get better before it gets worse? No. Now, do I think he's going to retire full-time or pull a Brett Favre? Probably a Favre. I think he might come back, hypothetically, but I think he's never playing for Green Bay again. You?
I tend to be more of a glass is full kind of guy. I think this is all just noise. I think at the end of the day, I don't think he's ready to give up. I don't think he's ready to not compete. I mean, they still.
I think he's willing to sacrifice a year. So that's what I'm looking at as the silver lining there. I don't know if he's going to retire full time. I think he might just take a year off.
What happens a year from now?
Potentially a waiting game between him and Green Bay on
because the Packers still own him.
But I'm saying it might just be a blinking move of trade me or you'll never see me ever again, and then maybe Green Bay will blink.
Well, maybe do you think that's ultimately Rodgers saying that he doesn't think Jordan Love is very good?
No, I don't think it has really much to do with Jordan Love. I think the issue that he has is the fact that even if Love was is going to be a very good player, Aaron Rodgers is probably a top 3 quarterback of all time. My opinion, top 5 easily.
Okay.
Jordan Love's not going to be a top 5 quarterback of all time. So there's going to be a massive drop-off to some degree, whether Jordan Love's good or not.
Well, so Aaron Rodgers is 55, so there is that.
By what?
He's like 55, isn't he, Scott? 55, 60? I don't know how old he is.
But I think he's like 30, what is he, 37?
30. Yeah, 36.
But the point is that I think that you can make an argument that he thinks Love isn't that good because he knows that Green Bay is going to look at the standings when they're 4-9 and go, maybe we should have listened to this guy. So maybe that's the point he's trying to make. I don't really know. But it seems to me like Rodgers just feels like there's a complete distrust or a lack of connection because the team just hasn't sold out to give him support over the years, whether it's true or not. That's his point, isn't it?
I know it is. Well, yeah, he was upset that they didn't ask him about the trade.
I think it's the trade for Love. I think it's the fact that they don't draft a wide receiver in the first round for about 15 to 20 years. It's a lot of factors potentially building up, but I don't know.
I'm telling you that if he doesn't play and this team goes 10-7, wins the North, Rodgers has no bargaining power at all.
Correct.
None. He comes back next year like, well, hey, now do you want to make me the highest paid player in football? We do not.
Well, I'm going to ask you, though, do you think that Green Bay without Rodgers and potentially without Devontae Adams, let's not forget about that one, are they good enough to win the North? Because I think the answer is clearly no.
It's not clearly anything because we haven't seen Jordan Love take one snap in the regular season.
Assuming that you have no Adams either, I think there's no chance this team wins the division.
I think it's a tough haul, but tell me who's good in that division.
I think that you can make an argument from supporting cast top to bottom. Aaron Rodgers covered up a ton of flaws with that team, and so did Devontae Adams because he's one of the best receivers in football. Do I want to back Kirk Cousins? Not really.
Right.
But I do think that them in Chicago at least have some form of identity. Chicago I still don't trust because you have Dalton or Justin Fields, and I think that's not going to work out. I'll go Minnesota. If the defense isn't putrid, I think Minnesota is the best team in that division, top to bottom, when Rodgers and Adams are not on the roster. So I'll go with Minnesota. But if you talk about future odds and you talk about how Green Bay's been taken off the board when it comes to Super Bowl odds, do you think they've also been taken off in division odds? I doubt it. Mm-hmm. You still might be able to find some value on that.
Well, I tell you what, anywhere that they've been taken off the boards for Super Bowl, they've been taken off for division, and they've been taken off for win totals.
I was going to say, now if you had to fade Green Bay any way that you could, assuming that Rodgers is not going to report, I don't know when you think is too soon to bet on a win total with a team, how you don't know when the quarterback might report. But if you had a favorite fading Green Bay bet, do you have a bet that you like? Because I think that the division probably is a good price for Minnesota and Chicago.
Well, as I understand it, the books that still have it up still have Green Bay as the favorite.
Yeah.
So that would be a time to take a look.
I'm curious what the win total actually is for Green Bay. Do you think that they've actually adjusted it at all?
Well, I can't find it anywhere.
I'm gonna try to find it quickly.
Because I've looked a couple different spots, and I have not been able to find it. So right now, DraftKings has moved the Packers to the second betting favorite to win the NFC North.
And I'm assuming is Minnesota first or
Vikings are plus 125, Packers are plus 175.
Okay.
Now, as always, shop your lines because William Hill has it 140 each way. So just give you a little bit of an idea there. Most of the books, FanDuel has them relatively close.
I'm still looking to see if I could find any other odds, but
Team
point is, if Rodgers isn't there, I don't think this team's winning the division.
How many wins is Rodgers worth?
That's a great question. What do you think his WAR is?
Well,
I think he might be worth like 6 wins. I think he's actually that good. I think it could arguably be more than 6. Like, he's actually I think he's a top 3 quarterback of all time. So I am very high on the Rodgers bandwagon. Defending MVP.
You think he's good for 6 wins a season?
I actually think he might be. The amount of holes he's covered up for that team for the past decade and a half is really insane. Now, you can say that that's crazy, but think about the one time Peyton Manning missed that 1 year with the Colts. I know that team wasn't good, but he had a neck issue after they won like 10 or 11 games the year prior, missed the whole year. They went 2-14. So I don't know how much a star quarterback is worth, but I guarantee you, if you asked about Peyton Manning before he missed the year, they wouldn't have told you he was worth 9 wins. Turns out he was worth about 9 wins. I have no idea.
Well, right now where you can find it, it looks like the total's 9.5.
Okay. I'm assuming with Rodgers and company, it was probably 10.5 or 11.5.
Probably 10.5 or 11. Yeah. So that's a number that's a FanDuel number, and that's a book that's trying to have it both ways. We see that every once in a while where they try to shade it just enough towards the possible outcome, but they're not going full throat. Because if Rodgers officially doesn't play, and like you said, and Adams is the wild card in all this too, and we don't want to give short shrift to that, because without Adams, I don't care if Rodgers plays, I don't care if Joe Montana plays, they got no talent at the receiver spot on that team without Davante Adams. I don't know who they throw the ball to.
All I know is that if you talk about win totals, if Rodgers is out, I'm definitely not taking the over. I'll tell you that much.
No, absolutely not. So, all right, well, we'll be curious to see how that goes as the season progresses. And your best bet right now, Rodgers, no play?
I think he's not playing the whole year.
At least for this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Adams is going to join him.
I think Adams gets traded.
No, I'm saying I think that Adams isn't going to play for Green Bay. I don't know if he's going to fully do the retirement angle, but with Rodgers being out and the fact that Adams and Rodgers have a very nice connection, because Aaron Rodgers kind of helped make Davante Adams a lot of money over the last couple of years. I don't exactly see Adams coming back without his star quarterback. I just don't see that happening.
Do you know where he would look very good?
I'm assuming you're going to say Kansas City, even though it's not realistic.
I am going to say Kansas City. He would be a very good fit for the Chiefs.
I'm sure that cap space with Frank Clark now potentially being, let's put this way, available.
I can't believe they paid Frank Clark. I can't believe they didn't pull the ripcord on that.
They should have.
The Chiefs are just they're ultimately a little too nice sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that was a big part of the New England Patriots' success. Because for lack of a better word, Scott, they were ruthless.
He was cold, which you kind of needed to be.
Yes. It's, you know, you hear players mouth the platitudes all the time. Well, you know, it's a business. I understand, but
it's a cutthroat business, and
they don't really. They don't. At the end of the day, they don't really want that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It really is. And some teams treat it a lot more like a business than other teams. And one of those teams is the New England Patriots, and I think that is a huge part of their success. Knowing exactly when to cut bait with their high price, soon to be free agents, and restocking the shelves. So We'll see what happens. I don't think Davante Adams is going to go to the Chiefs. It would be wonderful, but we just don't have the cap space. So, all right, Scott. Well, we're talking a lot about football because we're all kind of longing for football. Like, oh, I'm ready for football. But we got another 5 weeks or so, roughly.
I started my college research over the weekend.
Oh, are you thinking of going back to school?
Not quite. I was thinking about maybe going to a game, maybe at a stadium or something. But no, looking at some win totals, looking at some roster turnover, stuff like that. Okay,
yeah, very good. Hey, let's talk about some baseball, Scott, because that's what we actually have going on here.
Pretty small card.
You ready? Yeah, it's a Monday card, isn't it, man?
Yep.
We've only got what do we got 9 games. Yeah, not ideal, but on the plus side, we didn't leave a lot of time to go through it. So, yeah, we can do that. As always, want to remind you, if you guys just joined us, you are listening to Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour, we'll give you the winners, and that's what we're fitting to do right now, Scott. We're going to go through and we're going to pick as many of these games as we can. Let's just do a little snap cap. What do you say, bud? I'm gonna see if I can hit every game. We're gonna have to leave one of them off, but we may get to that in just a minute. Let's start with the doubleheader there, Scott. Game 1 of the doubleheader, 4:10 Central Time, start 5:10 Eastern. Atlanta Mets, big favorite here, open 152 now, sitting about 160. 6.5 is your 7-inning total as Kyle Muller goes for the Bravos against Marcus Stroman for the New York Metropolitans. Scott, Mets comfortably in the lead there in the NL East. And you've got a team that would certainly like to make some hay in this series coming up. Who you got in this one? Any value on the underdog there, or did the Mets just take care of business?
I like the under 6.5. Stroman, I was given a hard time because he struggled for the last month. He was very good in his last start, 8 innings and no runs against Cincinnati. Muller's been pretty good too. I think that 6.5 is too high of a total. I like the under.
Okay, that's a solid play. I will take the Mets. I'll lay the wood there. I don't normally like laying that kind of wood. In reality, I'll probably pass in real life, but I don't really want any part of the Atlanta Braves right now. Mets just playing good ball. Washington, Philadelphia, Scott, Ross against Howard. This game opened up as the Phillies as a minus 114 favorite, and that's about where it stands right now. Little bit of money coming in on the under. Opened up at 10, now down to 9.5, juiced in a couple of different spots. Man, a couple of outstanding pitchers here, Scott. What do you got?
I'll let you go first.
Well, it's a situation, we talked about it before with this Washington team where they're just not playing particularly good ball right now. They looked like they were going to make a move about 2 weeks ago, and then it just didn't happen for them. Now, Joe Ross has been kind of an enigma, Scott. He's mostly been pretty good. He struggles. He throws too many pitches. He's a guy that is still at the end of the day. When he gets wild, he gets wild. He can throw some strikeouts, but I'm just not sure how much confidence I have in him. Howard, for what it's worth, he's made just 6 starts on the season, but he's been pretty darn good in those starts, Scott. He's yet to give up more than 3 earned runs. He's given up 3 earned just one time. He's a guy that's not going to go a long time. Could be a kind of a hybrid bullpen game there for the Phillies, which is something you never want to happen. I will take a little bit of the value here. Give me the Washington Nationals here at plus money.
I'm going to disagree. It's most just because of the fact that I don't really like either team, but the Nationals do have the worst record in the league in July. They got swept by Baltimore. I'll go with Philly just because I know baseball is a game of streaks. You say it all the time. It's a classic cliche. I don't want to back the Nationals when they have the worst record in the entire league in a month.
Okay. For me, they're due.
Okay, fair enough.
No, that's not a thing. I just like the pitching matchup.
I think both pitchers aren't very good. So
anytime you tell me the Philadelphia bullpen's going to get involved after 3 innings, I'm excited for the other team.
That's a fair point.
All right, Cincinnati at the Cubs. Another big game there in the NL Central. The Cubs, they've got their hands on the plunger. They've already started it down just a little bit, Scott. They're about ready to hit all the contact points. I don't know if it happens today. I don't know if it happens tomorrow, but it's going to happen. In the meantime, we've got Wiley going against Kyle Hendricks. Cubs, they're the favorite, Scott. Minus 130.
They're good at home.
They're good at home. Of course, there's no official total on this game. On most books, the Westgate has put up 8.5. And I think that'll be a pretty legitimate total. The wind is going to be blowing a little bit out to left field, about 7 miles an hour. Not going to be a big factor for once in Wrigley Field. Scott, too little, too late.
I know you like the value with Miley. I'm going with the Cubs.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I know where you're going. I just think Hendricks is good. Cubs are good at home. And I said Cincinnati would struggle about a week ago. They haven't really been good since. I just think the Cubs are going to win the game.
Okay. Atlanta going against the Mets, game 2. Wilson goes for the Bravos against Mr. Undecided for the Mets. So we've got no line there. Got any insight on Wilson?
Are you a believer in the doubleheader split theory or no?
I will know, but I'll tell you what I am a believer in, Scott. I'll tell you a weird trend that has held for the last 2 seasons, and it's the underdog in the second game. Underdog in the second game is cashed at a rate of almost 57% this year, which when you factor in the value of being the underdog makes it a quite profitable play.
So regardless of who's pitching for the Mets, I think that just means take the Braves in game 2 because there's no chance that Wilson's going to be favored.
That's what I'm saying to you. Yes, I think I've got a preliminary site that has Tropiano going for the Mets and has the Atlanta Braves at plus 130.
Sure.
So that's probably going to be in the ballpark. I don't know if it's going to be Tropiano or not, but it'll be somebody that they bring up from the minors. So, yeah, I'll take Wilson. Like I said, he's a guy that hasn't been fantastic, but he's had his moments. He pitched well against Pittsburgh, pitched well against Toronto. So you know what? I'll give him a shot on the underdog there in the second game.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right, good. And now some games that actually kind of are important there on the American League side, Scott. Toronto goes against Boston there at Fenway Park. Thomas Hatch goes for the Blue Jays against Nick Pivetta. You heard of him, Scott?
I have. I heard he gets a lot of run support.
You're a big fan of Nick Pivetta, aren't you?
I'm a big fan of his run support.
He wins, baby. He wins.
I'm going with the Red Sox. I mean, this team had the big comeback win against the Yankees. Good weekend. First place team. At the same point, Toronto had a couple of chances against the Mets, kind of let them fall by the wayside. Toronto is a really, really frustrating team for their fans just because the talent's there offensively, the pitching is not. And you look at the record, you look at where they are in the standings, and you feel like they should be closer than they are. You think that's a fair statement?
I do, and I'm going to tell you why they're not. They are
bullpen's bad?
No, they're a terrible team against good teams. They are 49-46 on the season, Scott, but they are just 24-37 against teams over 500.
I heard that Boston and Tampa are over 500, so that's probably not a good recipe.
Most assuredly are over 500. They have won just one series against a winning team since the beginning of May.
I'm taking Boston.
That's not good. I've got to play the Red Sox here. Thomas Hatch making his season debut.
Good luck to him.
Yep, and it's good. That's going to be mostly a bullpen game too. You might get 3 if you're lucky out of Senior Hatch, and then you get a Toronto bullpen that has been, shall we say, inconsistent, Scott?
I was going to say not good, but sure, let's go with that.
All right, so yeah, I think you and I are both on the Red Sox there. Now, Scott, a game that kind of is a curious price for me. It's the Chicago White Sox against the Kansas City Royals. Dallas Keuchel goes for the Pale Hose against Mike Minor for the Royals with cheese. Here's the surprising part. White Sox opened up minus 120, and that's pretty much where it sits right now. You can find some 125 around. Scott, can you tell me why the White Sox aren't about a 3-2 favorite in this one?
Because Kansas City's won 5 in a row. It's the only thing that I could think of. I know Chicago was on a losing streak but beat Milwaukee yesterday. I thought it would be closer to plus 135, plus 140. It's kind of what I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
This line does surprise me. Also, you have the White Sox against the lefty. However, Minor is one of the only lefties who actually beat the White Sox this year or the last 3 years.
Beat them twice this year.
I'm going to go with the Royals. I like the Royals anyway, but this looks like an ultimate trap line, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It feels a little trappy. I wish I had our trap music ready to go.
Got to assume that Keuchel's going to get shelled.
Wait, here it is. All right, it is. It could be a trap line, Scott.
Perfect.
Yep. Normally, I would be all over the White Sox here. I think that's exactly what they want you to do, Scott. That's how they get you. I'm with you. Give me the hometown Kansas City Royals right here. Hold your nose, bet the Royals.
Having said that, I wouldn't bet it now. I'd wait till right before game time because if you're going to get late money, it's going to be Chicago.
Yes, totally agree. Detroit, Minnesota, we're coming down to it, Scott. Manning against Pineda. Minnesota minus 170, 10.5 or 10 is your total. One sentence, who do you like?
I'm actually going Minnesota, as crazy as that sounds, because Detroit got shelled over the weekend against Kansas City. We know they were peaking, but we also know this team isn't very good. So I think regression might be hitting them pretty hard. Pineda was good in his last start. I'll go with Pineda. You?
I'll go the other way. I got it. I'll take Minnesota.
I get it for the value. It makes sense.
60. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Houston, Seattle. Garcia against Magon. And Houston's favored here, minus 166. Garcia goes for the Astros. Opened up at minus 166, now about minus 180 across the board. Money pouring in on the Stros. And 9 is your total.
I'm going to take the reverse run line with the Mariners. Give me the plus 1.5 at even money.
Okay. Don't hate that. Don't hate that one bit. I think that's a solid play. Houston's been playing good baseball as far as their record goes. They haven't been scoring a ton of runs, Scott.
They also played against Texas.
Right.
Let's factor that in.
That's absolutely correct. So everything with a grain of salt down there from the Lone Star State. All right, let's do it. We've reached that point where we have put our heads together. We've come up with our best play. We'd like to lay it out for you guys. If you had to do it, if you had to bet all your chips on just one play, this would be it. Climb on your tractor, kids. Put on that straw hat. Get out your banjos because it's time to bet the farm. All right, guys, we're going to take a play from the last game on the board, and that's going to be the Colorado Rockies and the Los Angeles Angels. We are going to play first 5. We have no desire to see what happens with the bullpen because, spoiler alert, probably not going to be good on one side or the other, probably both sides. But we do like the first 5 under 4.5 at minus 115. We're getting good value right there. Both these pitchers, Marquez and Ohtani, have been very good lately. Marquez, 1.50 ERA over his last 6. Ohtani, by the way, has been great all season. He's given up more than 3 runs in just one start since April. Of course, that was a start where we backed him against the Yankees, and he lasted 2/3 of an innings. Thank you very much. So we'll see what happens. I figure he'll be okay since I'm not betting directly on him. He should be fine. Colorado, they do not score on the road, period. They are last in Major League Baseball in first 5 runs on the road. The Rockies are 6th in baseball in first 5 unders hit on the road. Both of these bullpens, as we mentioned, are a dumpster fire. No desire at all to get them involved. Let's just keep them out of the equation. Colorado Angels, first 5 under 4.5. That's going to be our bet the farm play.
Yeah, I see about a 2-1 score, maybe even 3-1, something like that. But 4.5 at minus 115, definitely great value.
Yep. Love it. Heavy error out there in California. It's a beautiful thing. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it. Nice, quick Monday show to kick off the week. We do appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate you, everybody watching on the YouTube that's doing that. If you're on the YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to drop us a comment. If you're listening on the radio side, don't forget to tell your friends. Make it part of your daily routine. Put it on your calendar. Come back and see us because we'll be here all week. You guys take care. Good luck on all your plays. We'll see you tomorrow on Winners and Whiners Radio. Take care, everybody.